the red that had long devastated the country. No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. But the Prince Prosperous was happy and dauntless and sagacious. When his dominions were half populated, he summoned to his presence 1,000 allies like her friends from the knights and dames of his court, and will then retire to the deep seclusion of one of his castellated abbeys. This was an extensive and magnificent structure, the creation of the prince on eccentric yet august takes a strong and lofty wall guard it in. This wall had gate of Aragon. The couriers having entered, brought furnace and massive hammers and whirled the bolts. The result to lead means neither ingress or egress to sudden impulse of despair of frenzy from within. The abbey was amply provisioned with short precautions. The couriers might be defined to contagion. The external work could take care of itself. In the meantime, news was fairly to greet, or to think the prince had provided all the appliances of pleasure. There was buffins, there were improvisators, there were belly dancers, there were musicians, there was beauty, there was wine. All this squirrely were written, without was the rested. It was toward the close of the fifth or sixth month of his seclusion, and while the peasant raged most furiously abroad that the Prince Prosper entertained his thousand and love at a mass all of the most unusual magnificent. It was a voluptuous scene, that masquerade. But first let me tell of the round in which it was held. There were certain imperial suites in many parts, however, shoes suites for alone and straight vista, while the folding doors sail but nearly to the walls on the either hand, so that the view of the whole extent is scarcely impeded. Here the case was very different, as might have been expected from the Duke's log of the Vizier. The apartments were so irregularly disposed our division embraced would little more than one at a time. There was a short tour at every 20 or 30 yards, and each tour an naval aspect to the right and the left. In the middle of each wall, a tall and narrow Gothic window looked out upon a closed corridor which through the windows of the suite. The windows were of stained glass goods, color very in accordance with prevailing hue of the decoration of chamber into which is open. That eastern extremity was hung, for example, in blue and vividly blue were its windows. The second chamber was purple in the ornaments and tapestry, and their panels were purple. The third was wearing trout, and so were the casement. The fall was furnished and light with orange. The field was white, the six with violet. The center apartment was closed shoe and black velvet tapestry and hung all over the ceiling and down a walls. Filing in heavy folds upon carpet of the same material and hue. But in his camera only, the color of the windows failed to correspond with the decorations. The parents' hair were scarlet, a deep blood color. Now in no one of the seven apartments was there any lamp or candelabrum. Amid the profusion of golden ornament that lay scattered to and fro deepened from the roof. There was no light of any kind emanating from lamp or candle within the suite of chambers, but in the corridor that followed the suite there stood, opposite to the edge window, a heavy tripod bearing a brazier of fire that protected its rays through the tinted glass and so glaringly adorned the room. And thus were produced a multitude of gaudy and fantastic appearances. But in the western or black chamber the effect of the fire, like the string upon the dark, hangs through the block. Tinted pans was ghastly in the stream, and proud so will a look upon the counters of those who entered. The, there were few of the company brought enough out to set foot within its precincts at all. It was in this upper arch that there stood against the western wall a gigantic clock of ebony, its pendulum swung to and fro with another heavy, monotonous clang. And when the minute had made the circle of the face, and the hour was to be stricken, there came from the brazen lawn of the clock a sound which was clear and loud and deep and exceedingly musical, but of so peculiar and of an emphasis that at each lapse of an hour the musicians of the orchestra were constrained to pause momentarily in their performance to hearken to the sound, and thus the Walters for performs since their evolutions, and there was a brief disconcerted of the Hallway Company. And while the chimes of the closed the ring, it was uttered that the withers rain pile, and the more aid and she gazed faster than over the bronze, as if in confused reverie or meditation. But when the caucus had 46 a Faliger announcer prelude the assembly. The musicians looked at each other and smiled as if their own nervousness and folly and make whispering was. Each to their next changement of the culture producing the no similar emotion and then after the last of the seals marines with embraces 3,600 seconds of the time dance flights. There came yet another chiming on the clock, and the world changed disconcert and tremulousness and meditation as before.
He had rather incorporated the merely embellishment of the seven chambers upon caution of the great fact, and it was his own gallantness which had. But in spite of these things, it was again a manifest error. The death of the Duke were a particular. He had a fine eye for colors and effects. He disagreed of the color of my fashion. His plans were bold and fiery, and his conception glowed with varied illusion. There are some who would have thought him mad. His followers felt that he was not. It was necessary to hear and see and touch him to be sure that he was not. Give character to the masqueraders. Be sure they were grotesque. There were masqueraders and glare and pickers and phantasms, much of what has been since seen in Hernani. There we are whisked figures with ensorcelled lines and appointments. There were the little fancies such as the modern fashions. There was masses of the beautiful, masses of the wanton, masses of the bizarre, something of the terrible, and no leader of the which might have sorry this God. To and from in the seven chambers there stirred in fact of multitude of dreams, and these dead dreams writhed in a boat, taking her from the ruins and causing the wild music of the orchestra to sing as the edge of their steps. And now there is the agony clock which stands the whole of the world, and then for a moment all is still on, all is silent, save the buzz of the clock. The dreams are still frozen as they stand, but the echoes of the chime die away. They have endured by a instant, and light have resumed louder throats after them as they depart. And now again the music swells, and the dreams live and bright for more, merrier than ever, taking hope from the many tainted windows through which streams the rise from the treetops. But to the chamber which lies most westwardly of the seven, there are no known of the mask, as their flows are rather light through the blood-covered paints, and the paints of the sable draper opposed to him was who falls upon the sable carpet. There comes from the near cloak of a money of Bill more somely emphatic than any which Richard. Their ears would indulge in the more remote first of the other's apartment. But these other apartments were themselves crowded and in the bed effortlessly. Until length there comes the sounding and minutes upon the clock, and the hymn music said as I have told, and the evolution of the words were quiet, and there was an own sensation all things before, but now there were several strokes based only by the ball of the clock, and thou crept with more of time into the meditation of the tongues among those were rewards, and those too. It happened for parts before the last shows of the last chimes had ourselves sung in silence. There were many individuals on the crowd who had found resort to become aware of the presence of a male figure which had arrested the attention of no single individual before, and the rumor of this new presence having spread a reason around, there arose and led from the world company a buzz of murmured surprise, of disapprobation and surprise, then finally of terror, horror, and of disgust. In a symbol of phantoms such as pains, it may well be supposed what no ordinary appearance could have excited such sensations. In truth, the massacre license of the night was nearly unlimited, but the figured question had out herod and gone beyond the bounds of even the prince. In the courts, there are sure and the heirs of the most reckless with cannons battles without emotion, even with the other laws to hold life and death, are courageous. There are men of which no jest can be made. The whole company indeed seemed knowledgeable to feel that in the course and bearing of the stranger will not proper exact. The figure was tall and gaunt and covered from head to foot the horizon of the grave. The mass which concealed the base was made so clearly to resemble the contents of the stained course that the clothes skirting must have had difficulty in dating the shirt, as yet all this might have been endured if not apart by the mad rivers around, but the members had gone so far as the sun to tie to the red deed. His visor was double in broad, and his broad brow with all features of the face was bricker with the scar horror. When Prince Paris after the gossip match, which made slowly soundless moments of the support is really more folly, paced by a foreign between words, he conversed a first strong shot of thoughts discussed what in the net his force of he reddened with rage. Who has two tribes? He has horses with coursers of accompany him. Who has daughters to insult with these blazing mockers? Take and remove the mask, and the will is no head a battle have done. Who dares? He horseless got a counters near him. Who dares insult of the brazen mockers? Grant him a stomach hand so that you know who's that down from the boundaries of the chamber. Instead of the press board of the authorities words, there was throws 7 rounds loaded clear for the prince was about and Rosamond, and the music had become hushed at the 1 minute of the hat. It was in the blue rooms where stood Prince, with a group of the party courtiers by his side. At first, as they spoke, there was a slight rushing moment of the crowd in the direction in the instructor who had the moment was housing near at hand. Note when the levers and the starless star made closer approach of the speaker. But from certain demons and ways which they might assume and the members and parents, they inspired word public, they were found not who bowed for hand to send him, so that on the bed he pays within a yard of the prince person, and when the bass assembled has a heap white impulse train from the centers is the runs to the walls. He made his way on the repertoire what a bit the same sudden and measured state which had discussed him from the first, through the word chamber to purple, through the purple to the green, through the green to the orange, through the violet, and the sight moments and beings made to embrace him. It was then, however, that the prince purpose Madden right covers rushed hurriedly through. The sea chambers was now followed him on account of a deadly terror that had set upon all. He bore aloft a drawn dagger, and in 3 or 4 feet of the reaching extremity of the bird apart. Thor suddenly comprehend he burst there was a sharp cry, and the deck through gleaming open the silver carpet which instantly of the walls. For rose in the covers of the pairs at turns of the rows on street into the black apartment and Saint Demon. House that figure stood erect a mountain winding the shadow of the ebony clock cast in the more Howard and feeding the great sermons and course like much white day, handled with some violent redness on the bed having table for. And now was another the prince underrated. He had come like after this night, and went by and dropped the rose on the rose videos halls of the rivers, and died eyes in the desperate posture of the hip halls, and the life of the evening clock went on with that of the lights of the gate, and the flames of the triple spiral, and the depths, and the cat, and the retreat held inimitable dominion over